Hello. Welcome to the content that sells. We are launching day 2. I'm so excited. I am so excited. If you are tuning in live, hello. Let me know in the comment. Just say hashtag live. If you're watching the replay later, just give me a hashtag replay. Let us know where you're tuning in from today, and we are gonna get started in just a few minutes. We're just gonna give everybody a time to hop on to this training. Hey, how are you, Clara? I'm excited that you're making it to day 2. Who else is with us? I see we have a few people already tuning in live, and I am excited. All right, so today we are going to dive into more content that sells. Content is, like we said, French. Like we said yesterday, is so important. Think of content as the base of your business, right? You don't have to master all content all at the same time, but there's a few things that you really need to figure out for your business. Hello, Judy. Hey, from Manitoba. Love it. How is the weather over there? Here, we're still like spring does not want to get here, but that's okay. We're going to get here slowly. So content is part of your business foundation. The content is something that is so overwhelming for so many business owners and entrepreneurs. So it's really amazing that we can all come together and give you some tips on how it can be less overwhelming for you. I've read like a blog article. There's research that says that after doing like a market research with entrepreneurs and basically content creators, the average content creator spends between 2 to 6 hours on a piece of content. Like my jaw dropped when I saw this, because it is crazy. It is insane that we spend so much time creating content. Like, wouldn't it be nice to have our shit figured out and figure out our content so that we can literally do anything else? Anything else. Everywhere here is saturated and expecting a lot of rain and flooding happening, overcast. But I see that you have some rain, because Manitoba was getting like snowstorm not too long ago. So maybe that's a good sign, but fingers crossed, no flooding coming your way. Hi, Kathy from beautiful California. So excited. So if you were, I believe everybody in the comments right now were here yesterday. So if you watched yesterday's training, give me a 1 in the comment. And if it's the first time that you're tuning into this series, just give me a 2. We're still really excited that you're here. I am still waiting for my first speaker. So we're just going to keep chatting just a little bit. I am sure we'll be here in no time. Sunny here in Alberta, not a cloud in the skies. Oh, you lucky duck. So while we're just chatting, I just want to announce the first 2 winners of our, for just showing up live. I think it's just really, there's something really special when people can make it live, because it's really motivating. It's really, those events are really empowering, and I really love when people are here. So I don't talk to myself. It's really special regardless. So the beautiful Clara, so Bella's Bear & Co. and Judy Zacharias, and I'm so sorry if I did not say this properly. I will be sending you an email with some epic prizes where you can choose which one you want to make sure that you absolutely love it. So congratulations to both of you. Awesome. All right. So let me just see. Yay! Yes, prizes. Who doesn't love prizes and swag? I mean, seriously. All right. So we are still missing our first speaker. No worries. Abby, I see you in the background. Are you ready to jump in and get started? Yes. Okay. So we're going to bring on Abby in just a sec. We are just going to scroll down here. Okay. Let me know. Something happens, right? Sometimes that happens when you're live. Does that make you like nervous when things don't go as planned? Or if you're like me, it's just like, nah, we're just gonna keep going. Awesome. Let me bring the beautiful Abby onto the screen. Hello, hello.
Hi, I forgot I should probably put my earbuds in. Sorry.
Okay,
I
that's
thought I
okay.
was ready. I'm not.
That's okay. There's no stress. So today we're going to talk about mastering your content marketing while doing the minimum. I love this already. So basically, no overwhelm with Abby. Abby Herman is a founder and the CEO of the Content Experiment, a full-service podcast management and content marketing agency for online service-based businesses. As a content strategist and consultant, Abby helps business owners let go of the day to day frustration around publishing a podcast so her clients can get back to doing what they love in business. Abby is the voice behind the Content Experiment podcast, where she features guests and solo episodes to talk about business growth and mindset, content strategy, and visibility for podcaster. Welcome, Abby. I'm so excited you're here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, it's so exciting. Fun fact, my podcast is launching today.
Yay!
Right?
That's exciting.
It
So
is.
you're like me then. Like you just try to do 14 things at one time, right?
Yeah, you know what? I love to keep busy. For sure. But there's just certain things that I love doing more than other. Thank you. I will share the link in a further email later today. So don't you worry, you get to listen to my first episode. But I'm really excited. I love the idea of creating weekly content versus social media. Social media was very hard for me to be on over the pandemic. It was very dark. I take the energy of other people, so I had to do sort of like a pivot as to who I follow, who I don't follow, so I can get back in the game, right? So
Yes.
with podcasts, YouTube, not blogging, I can't write to save my life. So I'm really excited that you're here. So first of all, let's talk about like just the title of it, the minimum amount of content that we need to do in order to be successful is such an exciting topic. And I don't even know the answer. So I'm really excited. So we should just dive right in.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are certain things that in business that every business needs. Like you need a business name, you should probably have a website, you need to have a way to sell things. So you need to have like, a sales page and a processor for credit cards and things like that. There are certain things that like you need those things in order to survive in business. And so I'm going to should people and say should, even though I know that, people don't like the word should, but the reality is if you want people to actually be able to buy from you, if you want them to know what you do and who you are and what you have to sell, you've got to put content out there. You need to have something out there so that you can be visible. And so there are a few. So I think a lot of people try to do so much and put so much stuff out there. And the reality is, if you're trying to be in all of the places, you're diluting your message, you're diluting your audience, your following, and your own energy and time and all of that. And it's just too much. So there are certain things that I feel every business should have. And as far as content is concerned, so that's where the minimum viable. So like the bare minimum, if you want to like get rid of all the fluff and all the extra stuff, these are the things that every business needs to have.
It's a good conversation to have as this summer comes, because I don't know about you, but I am not creating content every single day this summer. Not happening. I
I have
need
a,
some sunshine.
I have a child coming home from college and will be prioritizing my time with her. And so, yeah, so I'm batching a bunch of stuff right now. I'm batching my podcast and all of my content so that, and I'm also in her bedroom right now. So she's not going to want me working in here while she's home.
Oh, mine is sick, because if I host an event live, someone's sick, so mine is sick upstairs. My 14-year-old is hiding upstairs, and instead of being in my nice office, I'm using the space, but it's totally fine. We make it work. We make it work. Okay, so let's dive right into that minimum should content. Where do we start?
So you mentioned a podcast. So you want to start any kind of content strategy with a piece of pillar content. So I call it pillar content. Other people might call it something else, but what I define pillar content as is the content that you own. So you do not own social media. So we're going to totally forget about social media for a minute. Pillar content is what you own. So it's either a podcast, a blog, or a YouTube channel. So, and let me explain how you own these things. So the podcast you own because you're paying a host. You are recording the content. You have that video, or I'm sorry, the audio. You own it. You're paying a host to put it out there to all of the different places. So like, Apple and Spotify and Stitcher and all of that. So you own that. You own your blog because you are paying for your website. You're publishing on your domain. You own that. And, so that's a paid thing. YouTube is a little bit different because technically you don't own the platform where you're putting it, but it's a search engine. So it's a really powerful place to be. So I consider YouTube as a platform that you own as well. So those are the things to start with. Yeah, so have a place where you're publishing pillar content and be consistent with it. So whether that means, now I like weekly content because that allows me to get in front of my audience more often. But if it's every other week, if that's what you have the bandwidth for or the budget for, if you're hiring some of it out, then publish, every other week. But make sure you're consistent in how you're publishing your content.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the idea, because for me, podcast, YouTube, and blog is evergreen.
Yes.
Content that doesn't die.
Yes.
Right? So
and as we all know, social media dies. Sometimes more quickly than others, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, mine tend to do that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So that's where you start, is with your pillar content. And within your pillar content, so I recommend also having a way for people to get on your email list. So your email list is that's where you quote unquote own your followers. You do not own anything on social media. So you want to get people on your email list. So having an opt-in or freebie or lead magnet, whatever you want to call it, have a way for people to opt in, get more value from you, get a quick win, and get on your email list. So you want to have your pillar content and you want to have an opt-in that relates to that pillar content. From there, once they, and so all of these things that I'm listing here are part of your minimum viable content marketing strategy. So pillar content, opt-in, your welcome sequence. So once they opt into your email list and you give them the free thing, follow up with them and give them more value. So your welcome sequence is an opportunity for them to get to know you a little bit better. It's an opportunity for them to learn more from you. It's an opportunity for you to give more value and to maybe kind of gently guide them toward some of your offers. We're not pitching, we're not selling in the welcome sequence. We can gently guide them towards something, mentioning them, things like that. But your welcome sequence is really important so that they're not left hanging. I also like to, depending on what your opt-in is, I like to give more value that's specifically related to that opt-in also. So if there's maybe some other content that you have or other free things that you have that you can give them that will help them take that opt-in a little bit further, then go for it. Give it to them in the welcome sequence. So, and then once you've welcomed them and they have gone through that welcome sequence, don't leave them hanging. Start nurturing them with regular emails. So every time you publish a piece of pillar content, you should be sending an email to your list, letting them know that it's there. And I know that we're all publishing this stuff on social media and we're telling people on social media, but like 1 or 2% of your social media followers are actually seeing your posts. And if you are really engaging your audience in your emails, you're probably getting anywhere from 25 to 40% open rates on your emails. So that's a whole lot better than 1 or 2%.
And
so
we're not always in the mood to go and opt into anything. Like, you'd really have to catch my attention if I'm just scrolling or kids are crazy, right? Yeah. I do have a toddler, so things are interesting sometimes. Right? You're not always in the mood of going to opt into something, right? Especially when on scrolling bench.
Yes. Yes. So make sure that you're engaging with your audience on a regular basis. So I mentioned the pillar so those are the 4 big pieces when it comes to minimum viable content marketing. Your pillar content, your opt-in, lead magnet, whatever you want to call it, your welcome sequence, and your nurture emails. I feel like every business needs to have all of that. Like, that's a should. And that's a yes, everyone should have that. And I know should is a bad word, but you know what? Really, I mean, it's like doing your books, it's like looking at your numbers every month. It's like having a processing system for your sales. You need to have stuff like this in your business in order to continue growing. People are not going to magically come to you, which brings me to, I've got a couple other aside things that go along with this minimum viable content marketing. So social media, I like to be social on social media. I like to interact with people on LinkedIn and Instagram. Pick 1 or 2 social media platforms to be present on and active on. And when I say that, I don't mean that you're just posting there and that's it. I mean, you're actually going back to whatever you've posted and you're reading what people have said in your comments. You are interacting with other people's content there as well. So pick 1 or 2 and then don't worry about the rest. I know that that's hard. I know that people feel like they're missing out if they're not in all of the places, but you literally do not have the time or bandwidth to be in all of the places. And if you try, you probably are feeling a little frazzled. So make sure that you're just focusing on 1 or 2 social platforms. It's like if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey and his debt snowball, so you put a whole bunch of effort toward one debt, and when that debt is gone, you multiply that effort and put it toward the next debt, and you keep going. It's kind of the same concept, where you're just really focusing on a couple of areas. So, and I'm glad that that's resonating with people in the comments. So,
yes, what you focus on grows.
Exactly. Yes.
I love that. So as we're talking, let us know in the audience, which part of your minimal viable content are you missing right now? Just let us know where you're at with that.
Yes. And one of the big pieces, so this goes along with the pillar content and the fact that people are not really finding you on social media anymore. I mean, back in the day, I went full-time in my business 9 years ago, almost to the day. Like, we're a month away from my 9-year anniversary of full-time business. And I thought, I was able to get noticed on social media 9 years ago. That doesn't work anymore. So if you're struggling with, why am I bothering to publish pillar content? Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's listening. I'm not getting any new followers. My podcast isn't growing. My YouTube following is not growing, whatever. Or people aren't buying from my website. If those are some of the things that you're thinking about, then one of the big pieces, so this is kind of like a +1 in minimum viable content marketing, but it's an absolute essential if you want to grow, and who doesn't, right?
It's
You
more
know,
than just growing, it's also scaling and stuff,
yes,
working so hard with DMing people on social media. It's the evergreen model, right? You're
yeah,
trying to build a business where you make money in your sleep, and
yes.
that is really the foundation of it.
Yes, yes. And Kathy, I see your question. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But the thing that's like just essential is leveraging other people's platforms. So you using, and I don't mean using in a bad way, but leveraging it, like getting on other people's podcasts and doing things like this. Like I'm here leveraging Sophie's Sophie's audience and everybody else, all of the other speakers who brought people to it. I mean, getting in front of other people's audiences is huge, and that is what will drive people to your freebies because you're going to talk about it on there. It's what's going to drive people on your podcast. I've already talked about my podcast, so, and I didn't do it in a sleazy salesy way. I didn't say everybody go listen. I just mentioned it, I mean, and that's how, and hopefully it piques people's interest and they go over and listen. And and I can mention Sophie's podcast on my channels and the people I'm talking to. So really leveraging other people's platforms and getting in front of new audiences is what is going to help that minimum viable content marketing grow. It's what is going to help it to work and do its job. Your content that you're publishing on your platforms, in your places, in your accounts, that's nurturing content for people who have already found you. You have to get yourself out there and let them find you. And you can only do that by getting in front of other people's audiences. So Kathy asked, do you mind if I go into the...
Okay, no, go right ahead.
So Kathy asked about finding time and ideas. So that's I have a two-part answer. So for ideas, if you're struggling with what you should be creating content around, and I'm guessing that probably another speaker talks a little bit about this also between yesterday and today, but if you're struggling, I suggest you survey your audience. Talk to your audience about what they need and what they want. I have a 5-day challenge on how to create an audience survey that I can share. But first, survey your audience so you know what they need and want from you. And then as far as finding the time, I recommend, it's hard, for one, especially depending on what kind of content you're creating, it can be really tough to do. I do a lot of accountability dates with business friends. Actually, yesterday afternoon, so we do podcast management, and I struggle with recording my solo episodes. And I have a client who's also a friend who struggles recording her solo episodes. So we got on Zoom yesterday for 3 hours, and we sat down and we got through several podcasts a piece. So we're now batched and working ahead. So I recommend batching. Block the time off on your calendar. I like to have Mondays and Fridays. I typically don't do any calls. And so those are my days to sit and record and create the rest of the content around each episode. So that's just a quick answer for that. Do you want me to go through these questions that I'm seeing? Or
yeah, let's go through the questions.
Okay.
There you go.
So I have a welcome email, but I don't have a sequence and I need to create that. Yeah, so you have a welcome email, great. What's the next step? What's the next thing that your audience needs to know about you? So direct them to your podcast or your YouTube channel or your blog. Direct them so that they can, make sure they stay up to date. If you have a free Facebook group, make sure you mention that in a sequence. In part of the sequence. Make sure that you're talking about, other content that you've created that's related to the content that they originally downloaded when they joined your email list. So yeah. What do you feel goes into a good welcome email sequence? So I just mentioned a couple of things. So yeah, just make sure that you are directing them to your content. Ask them to subscribe to whatever you have, and more value. What kind of wins can you give them? What extra tips can you give them in the email that maybe you don't have anyplace else? I always like to do something a little special for people who join the email list. So what are some extra tips? Maybe you have a series of blog posts or podcast episodes that you can send people to that relate specifically to that. One tip that I heard in a Facebook group that I'm in that I've done is create a Spotify playlist. If you're a podcaster, create a Spotify playlist with really specific podcast episodes. So I have one for content strategy. I have one for minimum viable content marketing, and then I created pretty links on those so that I can send them out really easily. But that was such a great tip that I learned from somebody else. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, Monica loves the accountability partners. Yeah, it really is a game changer. I actually do it every Thursday with a group of business friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so Bella, can I comment on that? I love that you did that, but remember, so when I talk about surveying your audience, I like to hand pick the people who I'm surveying, because, and we're totally off the topic of minimum viable content marketing. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
I like to hand pick them. I look at who are the people who I'm already connected with, who have bought from me already, or who I know would be a really great fit for whatever thing I'm selling. And I like to ask them, because those are the people who I'm speaking to. So I joke all the time about my email list. I never send a survey to my whole email list because my parents are on my email list, and I don't really care what my parents think when it comes to content marketing. Like they don't know anything about podcasting. I don't even know that they know how to listen to a podcast. So be really specific about who you're asking. So when you get responses from your stories, Bella, then I would just take it with a grain of salt. So and what you did is a great way to get engagement on your Instagram account. So that's great. And then just take the responses with a grain of salt, because they may not be your ideal customers. They may not be the people who are going to buy from you. So
I love that. Keep the question coming.
And now I'll get off my soapbox.
That is exactly what we are here for. So I love it. Now, in terms of email, what would you say? Because the nurture into the email is part of the minimal viable content. So what would you say would be the minimum that you should email after the welcome sequence, your email list, in order to keep them nurtured and engaged?
And I think people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think weekly is the way to go. I think because you want to stay top of mind. If you're publishing pillar content weekly, you should be emailing your audience weekly as well. And a tip for people who are like, well, I don't know what to send, and I don't know, what am I supposed to say in my emails? What was the topic of your pillar content? And then your email can be a story about that, like why you chose to write about that, or if you have a specific podcast guest, why you wanted to have that podcast guest on your podcast. So tell a story about it. And it can be a personal story. It can be a client example story. It can be a what if type of story, but just tell a story. And that's engaging. And that, I think, gives a lot of value, because you're talking to them like they're a friend, which is, what we want them to be, right? So I would say weekly. I would say absolute minimum every other week. I think anything less frequent makes it really hard for them to remember who you are. And if it's been a while since you've emailed your audience, please don't start your next email with, I'm sorry, I haven't been around in a while, because chances are they're not going to realize it. Your subscribers will not realize it. Instead, just start offering value.
I love that. Okay, amazing. So, do you have anything else to share in terms of what we absolutely need to do in order to keep that viable minimum? It's so hard to
I
say.
know it is. I need to come up with a better term
Minimum
for it.
viable content.
Yeah, I mean, just start creating, just start publishing. I have a client who we just started working together and we created a really great opt-in. We have a sequence after the opt-in. We're working on some social media posts and she's really struggling with perfectionism syndrome. And we just need to get the information out there. We just have to start publishing. The reality is, if you're newer to business, you don't have that many people on your list, you don't have that many people following you, just publish it. It does not have to be perfect. And you can tweak your systems and all of that along the way. So nothing has to be perfect. Just do it. Done is better than perfect every single day.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually saying that yesterday. Like, why is there even the perfect word in the dictionary? What is that? I mean, I don't even think anything can actually be perfect. So,
Mhm.
and then sometimes it's better when it's not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, um, I edit my own solo podcast episodes and I edit as I go. And at some, like if I mess up, then I'll go back and delete some of it and then re-record. And sometimes I'm like, forget it. I just don't care. Like it's real, I can redo it 18 times and it's not going to be exactly how I want. And that's okay. Like, yeah, it's real. The way I'm speaking now, this is not perfect, and I'm okay with that. It shows my personality. It shows, that nobody is perfect.
I feel like podcast is such a great way to start with your minimal viable content. If maybe video is a bit overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
because video was really, really overwhelming for me at the beginning. So I feel like podcast is such a great way, and I kind of like it more than blog because, okay, I can't write to save my life, but also I love that your voice can be in other people's heads, right? And
Yes.
I just I just don't read.
It's so easy to consume too. I walk my dogs and listen to podcasts all the time. I mean, it's such an easy way for other people to tune in. And to go back on surveying your audience, make sure you ask them too. How do they like to consume content? What's their favorite way? My guess is they're going to say podcast for most people because it's just so easy. But if you're a B2C business, if you sell directly to consumers instead of other business owners, you might get a different answer. So I would ask to make sure.
That's true. Now, in terms of time, because people are sort of asking, how do you find the time? How much time do you feel it takes out of your time to have a podcast? So we're just talking weekly content because
Mhm.
there's the creating the podcast, there's editing, and then there's also the publishing, and maybe you have a website with show notes. So how much time do you feel that a beginner should put aside
Um,
knowing you
I'm
want
like
to
trying to add up hours in my head as you're
I know.
talking.
It's really important. One of the things I always say is it's amazing if you have a goal, right? It is
Mhm.
absolutely amazing, but you need to be okay with the work that it takes to
Yeah.
make that goal a reality, right? So you have to be okay. Sometimes we make goals and we're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not
Yes.
doing that. Well, it's
Mhm.
really important to know exactly what it takes to make that a reality. And time is sort of like, okay, so I'm going to put this much time on my calendar, either weekly. I'm a fan of at least monthly, but you know.
Yeah. So for me, and so I have a team who helps me with my podcast. Um, I have an assistant who she does all of the loading of everything and creating the graphics and all of that. So I'll include her time in this as well, though. But and I have an editor for my guest episodes. But for every episode, the actual recording piece takes probably 90 minutes total. That includes research time, me prepping for the interview and doing the interview. That's probably maybe 2 hours, 2 hours total for that. And then show notes, social media. I actually do that for myself, and the email. Those all go together. That probably takes another 90 minutes. So that's what, 3.5 hours. and then somebody else loads everything for me. That's probably 30 minutes. I mean, we've got the system down so good, but I would maybe an hour for that. So 4.5, that's, 5 hours or so. If you're editing yourself, I don't know. I've never actually edited a guest episode before, nor do I ever want to. So
it's not so bad. I mean,
yeah.
I've edited a lot more video than I have audio, but all of my guest episodes are coming onto the podcast. It's not so bad. It's not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's any different.
Yeah. I mean, so I would say 5 to 6 hours. I would say if you're brand new and you're doing it for the first time, I would probably schedule about 8 to 10 hours for the first few episodes, because it's going to take you some time to get your systems down and to figure out, and it will take you time to let go of trying to make it perfect, because it's not going to be perfect. And you'll eventually realize, oh my God, I'm spending way too much time on this.
I love it. I love repurposing content.
Yes.
I love, so I have this. So surprise, you're getting an email later to ask you if I can release this segment onto my podcast over the summer, right?
I love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's all automated, so she'll come later. But anyways, and then I'm also hosting a Freedom Summit in May. And so far, I probably have between 30 and 40 people. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be an amazing, 1 week. But then I have literally 30 to 40 weeks of extra episode, right? So my episodes are just me. I don't tend to talk, honestly, more than 10, 15 minutes. So my guest episodes are going to be longer, but I literally have 6 months of podcast ready between what I did and I'm literally doing nothing this summer. I mean, I'm just kidding.
I love that so much.
But repurposing, right? So if you're really shy and content's a problem, maybe you can get interviewed. Maybe you can interview someone else, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We still have some comments here if you still have a few minutes.
Yes, I do. And I actually, and I do know some product-based business podcasts, Bella, so I will mention those in just a second. Why did you decide to go the podcast route? So I don't know if you're, Monica, if you're asking me, or you're asking Sophie, but I'll answer for myself and then I'll let Sophie. But I got into it because I surveyed my audience. In February of 2019, I sent a survey to my audience and I asked them how they like to consume content. I sent 24 surveys and 100% of them said podcasts. So I was like,
wow.
And I did not want to start a podcast. I had no intention of starting a podcast. I actually took a podcast course because some of my clients had podcasts. So I wanted to know, like, behind the scenes, what was going on. And I was like, I guess I'm starting a podcast. And I did. And I'm I recorded episode 179 yesterday. So
oh my gosh, congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm curious why you decided to start a podcast.
Okay, so my audience was actually 50-50, but I do 2 things. So I have a lot of video content coming out, but they're all around the behind the scene of building a website, building a funnel. And this is really techie. Like, you're not really seeing me, you're seeing my screen while I take you step by step throughout the steps that maybe you find overwhelming. So the behind the scene things. But people also really like to listen, right? So my audience was completely 50-50, but it depended on what they were really interested. So interested in the podcast. And I found that the podcast took me a third of the time to edit and schedule. Because YouTube, okay, so I'm going to add, my IG on the corner. I'm going to add this screen. Anyways, you can get really, really fancy. Then I kind of sort of go into a rabbit hole into the video editing. But yeah, so it can take me 10 minutes to edit a podcast. It'll take me an hour and a half to edit a YouTube video. So time-wise, there will be a whole lot more content on the podcast than there will be on the YouTube. Though YouTube is a great platform. Time-wise, I do it all myself. So
yeah. Plus, you have to, like, I mean, you don't have to do your hair and makeup to be on
Oh yeah,
YouTube,
I did
but you
not.
want to do your
My
hair and
hair's so
makeup
wet.
usually, right? Yes, I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think it's an easier platform to consume too. So
It is. I think that especially if you're just getting started, and if your hair or your makeup, or if you cleaned, or the space or the lighting and the equipment is overwhelming, a podcast.
or you have to color your hair every 3 weeks because you have so much gray, like me.
Oh my God, my gray hairs are starting, but they're just here. So
Yes, yes.
just side note. Okay.
Yes.
Be okay.
All right, product-based business podcast. Yes. So I have had the pleasure of meeting all of the hosts of these two podcasts in person, and they're great. Sue Monheit, she, and I know I said her last name wrong. She has the Gift Biz Unwrapped podcast, and I don't know how to put a link in the chat here where everybody can see
I
it.
will
But
go look for it.
okay.
What did you sorry? Gift biz.
I'll actually put it in because I have the
Perfect.
private chat going with you. I'll put it there. So Gift Biz
Mhm.
Unwrapped, that is she's got her, I don't know how many hundreds of podcast episodes she's done. She is fantastic, and I've actually been on her podcast, I think just one time. But she's been around a really long time and really knows what she's talking about. She has her own product business that's extremely successful, and then she also teaches other people how to grow product businesses. The other one is the Product Boss, and that one is a I haven't actually listened to that. I've met both of the hosts in person. We've attended, Nina and Jacqueline. We've attended a couple of masterminds and groups together. I haven't listened to their podcast though, but I know that it's fantastic, and they're both very helpful in helping product businesses grow and teaching them how to market and things like that. Because marketing for product businesses is so different from marketing for service-based businesses. So I think that's really valuable, and that was a really great question.
Yes, love it. Okay, I'm just gonna scroll back up. There was so many questions. You're so welcome. So if there's any other question, just let us know into the comments. We sort of went on the. I was just curious with the podcast. I feel like it's really important to know, how much time you're spending. But yeah, video editing is it's more techy.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and repurposing content, like you mentioned, is a great way to save time, and you can use that repurposed piece as part of your minimum viable content. So you take some of the transcript and use some of that for an email or for a social media post or whatever, and yeah, you can absolutely repurpose that.
What would you say is, how do you repurpose your content?
I don't do it as well as I would like to. I'll tell you that. So I use a lot of courses and programs that I have. I tend to pull things out of those and repurpose those into smaller bite-sized pieces. I like to take some of the audio from my podcast episodes and create audiograms out of them, or use kind of like pull quotes and graphic quotes from guests. So I do that for myself. I do it more for clients than I do for myself. I'm like an example of the cobbler's children who has no shoes, because I spend so much time doing it for clients that I don't do it as much for myself.
I've grown a lot of businesses behind the scenes, so I am just like getting my shit together. Yeah. I can grow an email list like it's nobody's business, but yeah, I've been really, really good at growing other people. So yeah, I get it.
Yes.
It is so much easier.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, Kathy asked about using a content calendar to brainstorm and schedule ideas. So I actually use a Google Sheet for that. I call it my zones of genius, where I have the big ideas that I want to talk about over and over again at the top, and then I kind of list out the smaller ideas and the individual content ideas. And I pull information from audience surveys into that zone of genius sheet as well. And actually, the freebie that I have that I'm offering as part of this actually walks you through how to do that and a couple of other things that I've talked about. So
amazing. Why
that
don't I
is,
drop the link of your freebie into the comments here if you can tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so it's actually the first module for a program that I have, and it walks you through the audience survey. It walks you through, gosh, now you asked me a hard question, and now I can't remember. Let me go look. It walks you.
I dropped Hayley. I'm sorry, I dropped the wrong one.
Oh, okay.
But Hayley's coming on next, so that's okay. Hold on.
Oh, perfect.
Join Abby.
And I'm looking it up super quick so I can tell you. So it'll walk you through the, well, it gives you access to the audience survey and walks you through that. It helps you identify your zones of genius so you know what the big ideas are. It tells you how to organize your survey results after you do your audience survey. It talks a little bit about where to publish the content. And then also, I can't remember who asked about finding, I think it was Kathy asking about finding the time. So it walks you through, I have a batching guide to teach you kind of how to batch your content. So it walks you through that. It's the first module for a program that I'm offering and actually running live starting today, actually. So, and then, yeah, so I use that. So I use the spreadsheet for brainstorming ideas, and to schedule ideas, I actually use Airtable. I use Airtable to kind of map out what it's going to look like. That's what I use for myself. For clients, I use a Google Doc that looks like a calendar to kind of map out what it's going to look like. So
that's awesome. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but I will say
not.
that you do need a system. And if you're applying or hiring out later on, that system is gold. Coming in to work with clients when there is nothing organized, no system, is very, very, very hard to put things in place. And there's definitely a few let's call them headaches that can go along the way to hiring. So having that system in place is gold.
Yes.
Gold.
Agreed.
I don't know if I missed any questions. I'm just going to go back up.
Kathy asked about growing your email list. So to grow your email list, you want to get in front of other people's audiences. So doing things like this. So summits have been my biggest email list growth tool that I've used. Other things, being on other people's podcasts and talking about my free offers, and that's really valuable. Speaking on stages, people, I like to promote it on social media too, because people do see it from time to time. But the most powerful way is just to get in front of other people, get in front of other audiences.
It is a really, really, really great way to grow your audience. I've grown mine to over 10,000 in 6 months because I host my own events and I go in front of other people's audience. It's a lot of work. It takes a little bit of guts, but I freaking love it. So it just works for me. It just works for me for sure. You can also be going into other people's Facebook groups that can promote your freebies. So maybe that's an option as well.
Teaching workshops and other people's programs and masterminds and memberships and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to say thank you. Thank you for jumping on earlier and I just took 49 minutes of your time. I'm so, so, so grateful that you came on today. Thank you so, so much for all of your knowledge.
You're welcome.
Yay. And I'm excited to chat some more.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, how absolutely amazing was that? Yes. So if you're trying to grow your email list, getting in front of other people's audience and doing exactly like Abby said, and maybe just getting out of your comfort zone a tiny bit and start to look into the pillar content, the evergreen content, either a podcast, a blog, or maybe a YouTube channel. I highly recommend it. Yeah. Okay. So let me know if you have any question on growing your email list. We can answer a few questions. And oh, the beautiful Hayley just popped on my screen. So let's just bring her on. Hello.
Hello. I was like, I know you said 5 minutes early, but I saw it was ending and I thought just hop in.
You're so sweet. Yes. Hello. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you? This is
I
so
am
fun.
good. Yes. All right. So we are going to talk all thing niche content idea with Hayley. Hayley has been serving female entrepreneur for over 7 years in the digital marketing space. Her specialties are helping you, one, attract your soulmate clients, and two, create your dreamy digital product and offer. I want to say that I'm so excited that you're here because there's something really special in the online marketing. And you've heard of the 5 ones, right?
Yes.
One market, one product, one, oh my gosh. It's because I'm saying it. So one niche. So you need your one market, you need your one product, you need your one
a sales system.
Yeah, one sales system, one way to grow. It's not the right word. And then 1 year. But the thing is, one of the hardest thing to do for everybody is the niche. It's the market.
It's
Am I
true.
right?
Yes. Yes. And a lot of people get confused between like their ideal customer and their niche. Because if you Google like what are niches and maybe a list of 30 niche ideas comes up, it's never like, oh, moms that like to sew or something like that. That's your ideal customer and they're interested in your niche, but you're usually a part of like a product-based niche or a business niche. And then you dive even deeper into like micro niches, which is what we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited.
I'm so excited. Let's dive right in.
Yeah. So do you want me to share my screen? I did do a slide deck. I know not a lot of people.
You go for it.
Awesome. And this is a really cool system.
Have you ever been on Restream before? It is my system of choice.
No, I haven't. And I have to like authenticate it for some reason. So maybe ask me a question while I'm getting set up, sharing my screen. But
okay, sounds good. So yeah, you should just have to put the little computer with the arrow. That's a technical word, with the arrow up.
okay.
Yes.
No, I got that. It just like it opened up and was like, please allow me to connect Restream to my Google Chrome. It looks like it's working now. I'm just gonna make sure my other screen is open. Let's see. Doesn't want to share my window. Okay, I got it. Here we go. Share. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it on the screen. And we are live.
Woo, okay. So I don't know what they can see where our faces are and everything. Maybe let me know that before.
We're in the bottom right.
Oh, bottom right. Okay. Because then if there's anything being covered, I can let them know what it says. But yeah, so I wanted to cover niche content ideas with Sophie today because we've been talking about content so much over the last couple days. And I want to show you guys how to brainstorm hundreds of content ideas for specifically, I love serving female entrepreneurs or fempreneurs, but in any niche. And so I'm really excited. This is like brand spanking new content. So get excited. I updated the slides.
I'm so excited.
I love teaching this class, but yeah, updated slides for today. And I quickly just wanted to say like, hey, I'm Hayley. I've been serving female entrepreneurs for over 7 years, doing all sorts of different kind of content. You can always watch the replay to read this. I know Sophie already wonderfully introduced me, but I wanted to kind of share. It's like 7 years working let's say in digital marketing. But even more so, I've been on social media for 15 plus years. And I wanted to make that known here because some people have not been on social media that long and they get overwhelmed and they're like, why is it so easy for Hayley? Why is it so hard for me? And I just wanted to kind of put a disclaimer. It's like, I've been on here for a long time. So I've built a lot of habits, a lot of strategies and things over time. And so it might be a lot easier for me, but you will build those habits over time. It'll get easier for you as well. But thanks for the internet. Thanks to the internet. I am a full-time content coach, which is absolutely amazing. And I'll be your content coach for the next little bit here. But I threw in some questions here. I said, like, why do you need a niche why do you even need niche content ideas in 2022? I'm going to quickly break that down. And Sophie, feel free if you have anything, I can't see you, but just feel free to cut me off.
You got it.
Okay, awesome. But this is why. So there are 9.1 million online retailers in the world right now. When you Google like how many online businesses are there, and 2.5 million of those are in the United States. I'm actually located in Canada, but
Me
still,
too.
awesome. I don't know if I knew that, but that's awesome. Because where are you located?
I am in Ottawa.
Ottawa. Awesome. Yeah, I would love to go to the east side someday. I'm in Alberta, but soon to be. Oh, actually, I haven't even announced that yet, but whatever. You heard it here first, everybody. But yeah, all of this to say is that there's a lot of online businesses, but the important thing is to be niche or be hidden. And that's kind of the point of the story today. And Pat Flynn said, the riches are in the niches, but the fortune is in the follow-up. I want to focus on that first concept today, but as you grow your audience, the second part of this is really important for you. But if you're just starting to grow, you're really trying to niche down, get more specific, we're going to focus on this first concept today. And so what does a broad niche look like versus a micro niche? And so a broad niche is something like hashtag digital marketing or hashtag e-commerce. And specifically here, I'm using hashtags because I think that's a really great way to show a niche. And so I would say for the last 7 years, I've been in digital marketing, and that's really broad now. Like, and when I first started, I'd be like, oh, you're in digital marketing. Great. But now it's like, oh, what do you do in digital marketing? Like specifically, is it e-commerce? Is it email marketing? I mean, even e-commerce is really broad. Is it online courses? Is it your podcast? Like you got to get more micro, more specific now than ever. And so even on the left side, which I'm saying like, let's not be broad. We can use some broad hashtags, but let's try to avoid it. The point is, there's 22 million posts you can see made with the hashtag digital marketing. And there's only 100,000 to like 3 million posts with online courses or like digital nomad. And a digital nomad is someone who travels as they work. And so to show the difference, like a lot less people are posting to these smaller micro niches, which is good for you. It means that you're going to get seen. And so I wanted to kind of give a good way for you to determine if something is a broad niche or if something's a micro niche. The post or the person on the right is Rebel Nutrition. I love her. She's really, really awesome online, but she focuses on the kind of digital nomad online courses space, and she's thriving in it. She could say, hey, I do digital marketing or I'm in e-commerce, but it's just way too broad. So that is the moral of the story. So maybe drop in the chat right now, what do you think your niche is below? And then maybe Sophie, you could take a minute once they start to pop up to let me know what some of the niches we're handling today, because then we can kind of workshop them together.
To see those coming in.
Awesome. Let me know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know when they come in.
Cool. I know Clara is in product, but also just like memorabilia. I think that is a micro niche, and you could probably even get even more micro from it goes like products to like memorabilia products to stuffies, or I would like each type of product would be even more micro. And so how do you find micro niches? I wanted to say, like, go to Instagram. This is the easiest way I find micro niches. I look for hashtags in my niche that have between 50,000 to 3 million posts under like created with that hashtag. And all that means for anyone who's really, really new to social media or Instagram is that when someone uses the hashtag, like let's say hashtag digital nomad, for example, each time someone uses that hashtag, it shows up on Instagram. And so when I go to search that hashtag, I'm going to see, oh, there's 50,000 people have used this hashtag. And so the less you want to kind of be in the range of 50,000 to 3 million. Anything less than 50,000 is probably too small, and anything above 3 million is probably too big. And so for a micro niche specifically. Note, these hashtags should be what your soulmate customers, clients, and followers are searching for. That is really important in all of this. You don't want to use hashtags that you don't want to show up on, like hashtag love, hashtag manifest, hashtag joke. Like those are from the beginning of Instagram, like that. It worked back then, but now since there's so many people using them, it doesn't work anymore.
So we have 2 comments. There's Kathy that says, I'm still trying to figure that out. Any suggestions on how to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, first off, I'll give this example because I think this will help you kind of figure out like what is your niche. First off, maybe Kathy, I would ask you like, what is your business? What are you trying to grow online? Because then we can start off with your broad niche. For me, I would say my niche is business, like an online business. That is the broad version of my niche. And if I got a little bit more micro, it would be a digital marketing, but that's still very broad. And then if I got even more micro, for me, it's content creation. I love helping female entrepreneurs with content creation and digital products, which again falls under digital marketing, e-commerce. But I like to look at digital products as I'm helping you with the content side of it. So if I was to micro niche myself, it would be content. So I'm going to walk you through this one more time with women in business. If that was like a really broad niche, and then mompreneur, still broad, and then women in tech and women who code. And so the top 2 are really, really broad. You can see that by the amount of hashtags there are connected to it or posts that are under that hashtag or have been tagged to that hashtag. But if we look at women who code, if you were a web designer, you'd probably want to, and maybe you're teaching coding, I would use hashtag women who code. If that was your ideal customer, you're a web designer, something like that, that would be a really, really micro topic within that niche. And so I wanted to kind of give you guys an example because all of these are in the same area. You could be a woman in business, a woman in tech, a mompreneur, and a woman who code, but you can see how it gets more and more micro as we go along. And so I don't know, maybe Kathy has let us know by now. But
yes, Kathy is a technology virtual assistant.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I would say broadest niche, probably still an online business, but virtual assisting is definitely I would say it's a broad niche, but it's way more micro than something like digital marketing because I think virtual assistants came after like digital marketing started booming. And then they're like, oh my gosh, now virtual assistants is booming. And so I would say they go a little bit hand in hand, but I think you can still get more specific with a micro niche. And just how you do that is by searching those hashtags in Instagram and figuring out which ones have around 50,000 posts to like 3 million posts. That's a good micro niche. Like if you type in virtual assistant on Instagram, and then there's going to be some other ones that pop up, you'll start to see the micro topics or niches start to pop up. And that's how I did this. I typed in women in business, and then I typed in mompreneur, and then I just typed in women, and it starts to populate like women in tech, women who code. And so that's how I found these micro niches. And you will have to do a little bit of research, but it's really easy on Instagram. Now that you have the technique of knowing what the range is for how many posts this hashtag should have. So now that you've seen that, like what micro niches could you use, and then drop them in the chat. So if you know you're a virtual assistant, I don't know if it'll share my screen if I go to Instagram. Is it still?
I still see your presentation.
Okay.
I'll read you off a few of the comments.
Okay.
So we have, I'm a little all over the place trying to narrow my focus a little bit more this year. So that is amazing. Keep going. Judy says, being under another company is hard to decide when the products are so diverse, but maybe cosmetics, skincare to hashtag age gracefully.
Yeah.
And then
I was going to say that with that, I know that even being under another company, technically that's a micro niche, because I know the company that Judy works for, and it's a very big company in Canada. So I would even say using hashtags that are connected to that company is still, you're going to see a lot of posts. And I would try to find the ones that have anywhere from 50,000 posts to, again, 3 million. And when I go and search hashtag virtual assistant, it has less than 3 million posts. So I think that's a really good micro niche for Kathy there.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to see like what kind of technology you work with. I was behind the scene, online business manager, but I focus on events. I can run events like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
And everybody came to me because I was so niche down. I literally never looked for clients.
Exactly.
Sorry. I've never looked for clients. They all dropped into my inbox and say, hey, I was referred by so-and-so. So I think it's really important to just mention out there, what you work on and stuff like that. There's Elena that says hashtag high-end clothes.
High-end clothes. Okay. That might be a little bit broad. I would say try to narrow down a little bit, like who are you targeting? Let's see. High-end clothes. I might even quickly search, because I looked up virtual assistant high-end clothes. Yeah. Oh, actually, okay. At least the way I spelt it only has it's too small, so that's interesting. If I just search up high-end, there's 3 million posts, but this is where you guys will have to do a little bit of research, figuring out what is it your ideal customer or follower are searching for. So for me, I know that a lot of female entrepreneurs creating content, they're looking for content ideas. They're looking for a content plan. They're looking for content planning and content strategy. And so I use those hashtags as my micro niche, because I know that's what they're searching for. And if I align my content to match what they're searching for, they're going to be really, really happy. They're like, oh, great. She's giving me tons of content ideas, and that's what I asked for. So just as an example, but
we have Monica Ann that says spiritual business coaching.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that is more niche than ever before. Like that is a good micro niche, spiritual business coaching, because business coaching itself is very broad. Spiritual business coaching makes it micro. So now that some of you know your micro niche, and some of you may still need to work it out, it is something that could evolve over time, or at some point you're like, hey, this is actually what I love doing. And it's like someone pays you for it and you're like, oh, this is all I want to do. Focus on that. So the same way Sophie focused on online events and is niche in that, that is amazing. It's really needed in this time we're living in. And so if you can find out what that is, we're going to move on. Now that you have your micro niche, let's go to answerthepublic.com, and you don't have to do it right now. You could save this website for later. But this is really important. I love this website. There's tons of websites like this, but this one's the best for, we're going to actually workshop this together in a few minutes with answerthepublic.com and your micro niches. I'm really excited. This is where my freebie is going to come in, and the link's going to be on the screen. And I know Sophie will drop it in the chat again. But for this example, I'm going to use digital nomad as the goal. And so enter your niche, your micro niche, into the search bar, and the charts like this will pop up. So the Answer the Public search bar, you can see really over here, I said digital nomad, and these are some of the things that have popped up. Once you have this fun chart, which is really the top questions that are asked online. So for example, if someone was to type in, where can I find a digital nomad job? And if that was a really popular question, then Answer the Public is collecting all the most popular questions that are asked on the internet. And so Answer the Public, the whole idea is to answer their questions, which is what content creation is all about, is people are asking questions and we are giving them the information that they're looking for. And so these are the content ideas for hashtag digital nomad, and I'm going to show you what to do with it. All you have to do is answer these questions in your content, and we're going to do that right now. So let's plan out our next few niche content ideas together. I did promise you're going to have hundreds of content ideas after this. So if you're ready, it's time to plan content that sells. Let me know if you're ready in the chat.
Yes, I am ready.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Love to see it, everybody. So I know Sophie's going to drop it in the chat, but download the workbook here. It looks like here's a few example pages. The niche content ideas workbook. I'm really excited because you could print this out. You could open it on your iPad or your phone and fill it out there. But yeah, while you guys are downloading it, I'll say like, I wanted to show you guys some of the results my clients are getting. One person was like, "You're my savior, like, trust me." And just getting thousands and thousands of views on their social media. Lou always loves to give me a little shout out. We work together, and she is starting to gain new followers and actually attracts soulmate clients on social media. Even though she has like a 2.5 million net worth and is already like doing really well in business, but she was like, social media is something that I wasn't really comfortable with. And so, yeah, I love sharing these stories because it just means it's possible for you too. It's like, if I know someone who wasn't even working with me, I just said like, "Hey, here's my ebook strategy." I had it on my social media, her ebook, and in 30 seconds she got a sale. If that can happen from my free content, then I'm like, my free content's so valuable. I'm like, how do you imagine what it's like to work with me? But it's hilarious. I love seeing these testimonies. But by now, I think you probably have downloaded the workbook. So I want to hop in. This is what it looks like on page. After you flip through the cover photo, you get to this page. This is the content ideas brainstorm. And you can tell there's all these little bubbles with hashtags. And so I want you guys to guess what goes in there. Because your niche goes in the middle, and then what goes in the bubbles. I'll let you guys maybe take a minute to guess, because I think it's fun to just play around a little bit. And if there's no answers, let me know, Sophie, because I can't see. But yeah,
I know there's just Judy was having difficulties with getting her workbooks. I'm just making sure that she's good to go.
Okay, because once you guys enter your email into that landing page, it should show up in your email. But feel free to keep watching. I can kind of walk you guys through it on the
hashtag ideas.
Yeah. Sorry, what was it?
Kathy says hashtag ideas.
Yeah, okay. So these are your micro niche hashtags or micro topic hashtags. And so we're going to start off, you're going to, you have your broad niche that goes in the middle, and then you're going to split off into all your micro hashtags in the bubbles. And so for me, I would put digital marketing in the middle, because I think that's really easy for people to know what that is. And then I would branch out and be like content creation, content planning, Instagram for business, all these hashtags that I use that help attract soulmate clients into my world, because it's what they're searching. That's the really important key. We don't want to use hashtags that they're not searching for. Like, I'll try to give you guys an example. I could use the hashtag women in business. I probably have, just to let the algorithm know, like, hey, I want to target women in business. But I would be surprised if my soulmate clients were actually looking like hashtag women in business. I would just be surprised. It's not something, I'm a woman in business and I'm not following that hashtag and being like, oh, what's on the women in business page today? But anyways, well, do that. And I'm going to give you guys an example. This is the second page. And so the types of questions you'll be answering are like the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. And this is really important. This is how you come up with hundreds of content ideas, is literally like, how can you answer these questions in your content? I don't know, Sophie, if you've ever done it like this, but I have a lot of fun doing my content this way. And I love your content calendar. I think that like mixed with my content ideas brainstorm, I'm like, this is beautiful.
It's more like I don't know that there's a strategy to mine, right? But it's more like a memory jogger. Yeah, my content, I have like my 3 really big pillars.
Yeah.
And then,
it's like prompts, right?
It's almost like the same thing, right? But I like just ask slightly different questions, but it's actually really, really, really similar.
Yeah. And so with this strategy, we're going from answer the public. I know yours already had some questions in it, but I'm giving some examples, just showing you guys where the hashtag would go. But here's the example with the hashtag digital nomad. And so putting that in the middle, these are some of the questions. These are some of the questions when I put that. So the funny thing about hashtags is they're hashtags, but they're also keywords. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about SEO yesterday. When you search Google like digital nomad, you're searching those key words. And so hashtags are just key words that you can kind of track and see how many people have used them. And so for this, you're entering those key words into Answer the Public, and it populates all these questions that now you can answer. And so with digital nomad, I took some of the questions. It's like, who is a digital nomad? And so you could tag some of your favorite, if you were in this niche, you could tag some of your favorite people who are digital nomads and really help other people who are interested in this topic have more people to follow. And by doing that, that's a joint venture. That's a collaboration. Like they're probably going to share your reel because they're in it. And then, or whatever piece of content you're doing, and then you're going to get more followers from that. So who is a digital nomad is like the first one under the who column. And then under the what column is what is a digital nomad visa? Because a lot of people have that question. They're like, oh, what is that? And so these are all random questions that I took from Answer the Public. So we know they're highly searched. The next one is, when do I know I'm ready to be a digital nomad? And then where do I stay as a digital nomad? And why should I become a digital nomad? I think these are all really fun. Like already someone who's a digital nomad has 5 content ideas for this week. And all I did was just copy and paste the questions from Answer the Public into here. So
and I love this because one of these can be several posts. It can be a blog, it can be a podcast, it could be a YouTube, it can be a reel. I mean, you can interview someone on this. I mean, I can go on and on here. I get really excited. I don't know if you can tell.
I love it. I love it because people know that you're in your passion and in your vibe, your energy when you're like energetic and you're excited. So yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. I'm like almost too obsessed with this where like I could probably create like, oh, I don't have it by me, but like a physical document so that I never have to come up with content ideas ever again. Especially if you're so micro niche, it's like, it's going to be the same questions asked again and again. And then you can start repurposing your content and repurposing these content ideas. So yeah. Who's excited to have hundreds of content ideas? Maybe drop a yes below. That would be really awesome. I'm excited for you guys to, once you get the workbook, it's probably in your email or your spam folder right now, just to give you guys a heads up. Sometimes that happens, you know, whenever you download something from someone, if you can't find it in your email, always check your spam or junk folder. Because sometimes if it's the first time you're receiving an email from them, your email provider will be like, who the heck is this? And put them in spam. So
yes, and if you want to make sure it doesn't happen again, just hit reply on Hayley's email. Just say a quick hi. Let her know how awesome she is, obviously, but then he'll make sure that she'll never end into your spam again. Woo-hoo. You won't miss a thing.
Yeah, I don't want you guys to miss anything like this. Like my email list got all invited to this amazing conference, which was free. Like it's just amazing. Like, so that's the power of having an email list. I could tell, you know, my social media and different people about this virtual conference, but having it go directly to your email, like it's amazing. I love it. And like, was it Amber before? I might be Abby. Okay. Cause names. Oh my gosh. I actually, this is something just as people are saying, like, yes, I'm excited to have hundreds of content ideas. Something that's funny about working as a like digital, if you have a digital job or a tech job in general, is I find that my frontal lobe or like the internal part of like the front of my brain gets exhausted. And it's actually hard, even if I met this person an hour before, to like pull the name because I'm pulling so much information. And so I don't know, have grace for your fellow techies in your life because they are working really hard. That's just a side note.
That's so true. I am not great with names at all.
It's not just names. It's like it's like I feel like I'm in the Matrix. It's like, hey, what do you want for dinner? And you're like, oh, and then it's like finally you grab it and you say one thing and then you realize you want another thing. It's just, it's a big thing.
I like it.
Anyways, the last thing, since you guys are super excited to have hundreds of content ideas, I wanted to give you guys a bonus tip. So I'll do a little drum roll. Drum roll, please. This is a hack. follow your micro niche hashtags on Instagram to tell the algorithm what your niche is. And I know Clara already knows this because I love talking about this in my stories. For anyone who follows my stories, I like to give really hot tips in there that I don't always share on my reels and things. I like to give my warm audience like a little thank you for checking out my stories, but this is really important. And as you can see on the left, these are some of the hashtags I follow, which is different than just clicking on the hashtag. Like, you can follow hashtags the same way you follow someone's account on Instagram. And as you can see on the right side, based off who I'm following, Instagram knows that I want to see content ideas, content planning. And the cool thing is the algorithm is like, oh, okay, this is what you want, but I'm also going to help show you more in that niche as well, because that's just my space. And so I make sure my business account is only focused on my niche and nothing else. Like, before I did this, it was like anime, coloring, like all these random things. And I was like, I'm not interested in any of these things. And of course, my personal account could be focused on other things, but having the algorithm know your niche, like what you want to see and what you want other people to see, is super important. But you'll also get more ideas for what to post because you'll be seeing other people in your niche, as long as you don't compare yourself, because comparison kills creativity and confidence. But this has really helped me. I absolutely love this hack. I love seeing my micro niche show up, and I love that I show up in my micro niche because the algorithm sees that I use these hashtags in my content. So that's the bonus tip. So
awesome tip.
Let's get to work. Proud of you guys for taking messy action and creating content that sells over the last couple days. And then I'll leave room for any Q&A. And if you guys ever have any more questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram. But yeah, for now, maybe I'll stop sharing so I can see you guys in the comments and everything. But yeah.
There you go. Hey, and I know yesterday there was tons of questions around Instagram and Reels, and I am trying to remember them.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sure if anybody has questions, they can.
Yes. Because
I'm so glad to see Judy and Clara here, because they're like some of my biggest cheerleaders. It's great.
Yay! That is so exciting. I know that the audience is primarily on Facebook and Instagram. So I think Instagram is what came up the most yesterday, but also knowing my email list. It is mostly Instagram and Facebook, which is really, really interesting. I would be curious because I have so many questions. I would be curious. So what platform are you primarily in?
I would say Instagram, but the funny thing is I don't only get my clients from Instagram. I would say Instagram is the account that I'm trying to grow, because I'm in the same boat as you. It's like we can grow other people's accounts, no problem. But it's like, okay, now I have to focus on. So really the last year or so, I'm like, okay, I just want to grow my Instagram. I also made the mistake, so none of you make this mistake, of turning like my personal account into a business account. And so the algorithm's like, what the heck? And everybody starts on following you because now you're all business. They don't need content ideas and all these things. So if I were to go back, I would have kept that as my personal account and probably started a new account from scratch, because Instagram is favoring new content creators. So anyways, long story short, I'm on Instagram, but I get a lot of clients from Facebook groups.
Awesome. And do you repurpose your content? So you create obviously content for Instagram, but do you repurpose it anywhere else?
I mostly focus on keeping it on Instagram. I haven't loved moving it over to Facebook. Like, I just haven't seen that work as well yet for me. And so I don't do that. But I think if I was to go like a next step, it would be repurposing it to YouTube. But I am definitely with the 5 ones. I almost think there's 6 ones. And I like focusing on one platform because it's been really easy. I have my Facebook group. It's been really easy to like, I grew everything to like 400. And now I'm like just growing one thing has made it like, okay, now I'm at like 2,000, then I'll get 5,000 and 10,000. And those people will overflow into other platforms. But if I'm trying to like know the strategy for which I do know individual strategies, but for to just focus on one and put all my energy into it. I've seen such massive fast growth versus like very slow. Like it kind of burns me out. And I know you can do it, and I think at some point I will, but at this season of my business, I just love focusing on one platform and just not getting burnt out.
No, yes. Yeah, I agree. You would kill on YouTube, but podcast as well. But I agree, you know, as working behind the scene, and working with my clients, and some clients I decided to keep working with them after the summit. Lots of circumstances, obviously. And one client just looked at me, she's like, okay, I want, and keep in mind, like some of my clients were not on Facebook before, they're not on Instagram, they're not nowhere, they don't know the platform, they're already overwhelmed by the tech. And okay, so they would like a Facebook group, right? So after the summit, they started a Facebook group. They now want a Facebook page, but they also want to grow their personal Facebook. They want to grow on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, and start a YouTube channel. And I just look at them and I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. No. Yeah. And then, but you asked the question, and I was like, so you also want to start your coaching program that you haven't started. You're not sure who you serve. And I'm just like, yeah, this is not going to work for me.
Yeah, you need a lot more business planning first, then they're not ready for all the, I think that's what it is.
I'm not ready. I wouldn't even be able to do it for someone else. Even if I was to like, Hayley, I'm going to grow your YouTube, and you're like, I want to be doing all of these stuff. I'd be like, no, I'm out. Because even for me, that would be exhausting, right? Yes. So,
I think that's more, that strategy of doing all of them is better if you're working with like a digital marketing agency. Like I know there's a company called Repurpose House or something, and I love what they do, but like it costs a lot because it takes a lot of work to repurpose content to fit for all these different platforms and then post them everywhere. And
I think that you can post different places, but you need to concentrate on one social media platform at a time because they're all different, right? And I don't know who has that kind of time, really. So we just have a question. I would like to have that, but I do not. So Monica Ann is asking, what do you think about the suggestion of only using 3 to 5 hashtags now that Instagram is better at understanding what the posted content is about?
I think it depends, because at the end of the day, for your content to get pushed out, there's like a lot of different factors. And if you're posting 3 to 5 hashtags and a short little chat, and if the algorithm does not know what you're doing, or the hashtags don't work for it or whatever, it's just not going to push it out. And so for some people, they're doing still like 28 hashtags. Like I posted a piece of content right before hopping on this. I was like, I want to show off. I showed off your amazing content calendar because I tried it out, and I was like, this is awesome. I love it. And so I did a little reel and tagged you in it. But I think like for that one, I was like, I just want to test out using more hashtags. At the end of the day, I do not think there is like a right all, be all, like end all way of doing things. So I would test out both. I would see like, hey, if I use a trending audio, if I have like a really awesome caption, maybe it's not too long, but it's potent and strong, and 3 to 5 hashtags like that, does that work for the algorithm? Like how did that reel do compared to one that I used 30 hashtags? But one note I want to make, and I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Sophie, but I think everybody uses hashtags backwards.
Backwards? What? You might need to expand on this one.
So people go and they make content, and then they choose their hashtags.
Okay, backwards. Yep.
They should choose their hashtags that they want to show up on and create content for that. And that's why my worksheet will work really well for everybody, because they're already going and doing the work of like, what hashtags is my audience looking up? And I'm going to create content that serves those hashtags, because at the end of the day, we can create all the trendy, funny reels, but if they're not getting the engagement and not actually serving our ideal customer or follower, like I only have 2,000, I'm going to say like 2,000 followers. Like that might not look like a lot, but a lot of them are soulmate followers. And a lot of them are here for my content because I actually use my hashtags that go with my reel, versus I'm going to make a reel and then I'm going to choose my hashtags. So
I love that. I love that. I've never thought about it that way. That was like sort of backwards. And I love that. But it's true. You have to see what works. And Monica, you did say that you were in the same boat in terms of maybe a pivot into your account. So maybe using a few more hashtag until the algorithm can really work for you might be
a
good idea.
Yeah, because it's going to take a little bit of time for the algorithm to pick up. But honestly, like what I see at the end of the day is that your feed should be timeless. And whether that's value for what you were doing before or value for what you're doing now, whatever you're creating should be timeless so that when people come, they're like actually able to binge and learn and gain value. And then your stories is where you tell people about your journey of pivoting and actually take them on the journey and the path with you, and talking about your offers, talking about your products and different things. But I think making your feed timeless will make it really easy for you to pivot because you know, okay, even if I'm pivoting, like people are still going to gain value from this. So
awesome. Now, I know that there's been a lot of talk about the evergreen content from podcasts to YouTube and blogging, but the reality is that right now, the audience is mostly growing on social media platforms alone. So now that we're talking about Instagram, do you have like one last tip on growing around how often should we post on social media platform in order to not only just create content that sells, but to grow as, as a business?
And so some people might be like, hey, well, she's not growing, but I am. Like, we're all growing. We're all at different stages. And I think it's really fun. I've seen it work for so many people. Like one of my clients made $40,000 in 10 days doing a launch while she was doing, here's my strat. Here's the last thing. So reels. I know that all of us are either love or hate them, but reels are what got her audience to grow so quickly, but also kind of attract the cold audience into her world. And that's the only way to do it. I haven't seen the cold people get reached through carousels, through videos, through all these things that are available to us on Instagram. But as I've switched over to only doing reels, but the funny thing is my cover photos makes it look like they're not all reels. It actually kind of makes it tricks your eye to think, oh, she still does carousels. But I'm realizing those who are growing really, really fast are only doing reels, even if it is different kinds of reels that you've never seen before. Like I'm thinking of Clara, some of her posts that she's done as carousels, I could easily see transitioning over to reels. Like one she did today was her why and her daughters in a carousel. And I'm like, why don't you take a video of your daughters dancing and then make the same post? Because at the end of the day, reels are going to reach farther. And there's a free content idea for you, Clara. But repurposing our old carousels and turning them into reels because they're going to reach more people. And for example, if my reel gets 1,000 views versus a carousel getting 200 views, my carousel might get the same amount of saves and shares, but that's only from my warm audience. With reels, those saves and shares are potentially also that cold audience and coming and following me. And that adds up those views. Like my little accounts, like when you go to your insights, it every time I post a reel, it like spikes. And so I'm like, okay, if I was posting, and I am 2 reels a day, you're going to see that like spike, but also momentum build. And so that's what I would recommend. Might be a little overwhelming for some people. So if you're
got over myself and I started posting reels.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go to my insights. Over the last week, I have reached 316% more engagement and 461% more accounts in the last week.
Exactly.
I mean,
that doesn't tell you
what else
it works. I don't know what will. So to end the question, I would say if you can, they don't have to be complicated reels. They just have to be answering that question that from Answer the Public, like really simple topic, answer a question, make sure your hashtags are aligned, which they will be if you use those keywords in Answer the Public. And then try to post 2 reels a day because that will boom your account from what it is right now. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, one other thing is just to have an optimized bio, because I know with one of my health coach clients, her account, like when one of her reels went viral, she had so much hate and bad comments. And once she changed her name from first name health coach, now it's first name certified health coach because she is certified. That way she just boomed. Just like it was no longer, oh my gosh, you're not certified. Those types of comments. It was now like, oh, I love your content and good.
People. Yeah. So I know that we all secretly want to have like these millions of views, but I had a friend, like her post just went completely up and it was like, I got so many gross comments.
Yeah.
And so many weirdos.
Those aren't
following me.
followers.
I
Those
mean,
are not.
I don't know that I want to grow that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So side note, it create evergreen content, create content for your audience. So a reel can be evergreen if it's information that's always going to be useful to me versus the popular girl on the block, right? I don't know. Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to put the freebie, the workbook again, one more time into the comments. Awesome. I'm going to send it to everybody on the email that's going now, the replay, obviously, because we have about 9 people here online. But yesterday's video reached, I don't remember, 130, I think, so far. I only looked at it this morning, so I could be totally wrong. So hopefully everybody that's listening, if you're creating content and you'd like us to take a look, just tag us into your content. I would totally love to go and comment and share your content. I want to say thank you so much for being here, Hayley. You're absolutely amazing. FYI, I found you by simply looking for content creation ideas. Is where you popped up on my feed when I was looking for speakers.
That's amazing. See, that's the proof. That's the end story is do what I do and you'll show up and you'll be at an event talking just like this.
But it was awesome is because, I was able to find exactly the speakers that I was looking for by just looking into the search, right? Which is so amazing. So I want to thank you so much again. And I'm looking forward to chatting some more, collaborating some more.
Awesome. Okay. I will hop out. Thanks for having me. Much again. Really appreciate you. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, so that is a wrap for today. Now, again, if you didn't get a chance to grab my content creation mastery course for free, I'm going to drop it into the comments. That will be available to you on Monday. Now, I am not so much the person that's going to teach you, what to post, although I have tons of ideas for you, but I want to show you, what I really want to show you is the behind the scene of creating content. So if you wanted to have content on YouTube, but you don't know how to edit, how to schedule, all of the behind the scene, what we're going to do together is we are physically going to edit videos together, edit audios together. And I'm going to take you A to Z how to repurpose your content, techie style, all of the behind the scene, and give you an epic system so that you can stay organized. And when you are ready, because you're crushing your business and you want to hire, you're going to have a system in place that you can effortlessly be able to pass that along. So go and grab that. Again, if you've won a prize, I'm going to send you an email. Also pick somebody at random from today and send you an email. I'm really excited. I'm so grateful you were here today. If you have any last question that we haven't answered, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Sophie_C_Riley, or send me an email at SophieRiley.ca, and I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. So I hope everybody has an epic weekend, and I look forward to chatting with everybody